Yep. Good evening, everyone. So last session we discussed about some TypeScript language basics. You learnt about all the classes, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, right? These are the new things in TypeScript and we discussed them, right? What is, because these are not part of JavaScript, but TypeScript supports abstract classes, static, non-static, access modifiers, those you learned. Now, one more concept we learned, generics. I hope you got a clarity on that. Generics, what is the purpose of generic? It is used to configure type safe and strongly typed members. Type safe means initially they are open to handle any type. Strongly typed means once they know the type, they can restrict the type. They will not allow any another type. That is what actually generics, right? Now, one more TypeScript concept you need to know is about enums actually. Enum. Enum is nothing but it is enumeration. Enumeration is a set of constants. Enumeration is nothing but a set of constants. A set of constants you can keep as an enumeration. Constant means, you know, every constant must have initialization. Must have initialization. That means it must be initialized with a value. And actually, enum can have set of constants which can be number constants, which can be string constants, and which can be expression constant. That means if anyone asks what is difference, means what type of constants we can have. You can have number constants, string constants, and expression. You can keep number constants, numeric values, string constants, and expressions. So enum will not allow any another type. It will not allow any another type. So you can have only these three. Others are not allowed. We cannot have them. What is the point is actually why you cannot have, for example, in interviews they ask why we cannot have Boolean type. Because enum cannot have a Boolean type. It can have string, it can have number, it can have expression, but you cannot have a Boolean type. Why we cannot have a Boolean type? In an enum, you cannot have a Boolean type. Why? Because Boolean changes from true to false. Right? Boolean is not a constant. Boolean changes from true to false. So Boolean is not a constant. So you cannot have. Enum can be only collection of constants and Boolean is not a constant. So if anyone asks like, so can we have Boolean type? That means the question here is enum cannot be enum. Can we define Boolean as enum? Boolean as enum? So answer is no. So because Boolean is not constant. Boolean is not a constant. So we cannot do that. So if Boolean is not a constant, then you cannot handle it. You cannot do that, right? So generally enums are used for handling constant. What is the specialty is actually, so enum number constants have auto implementation for value. They have auto implementation for value. Even you don't define a value, automatically value is applied. For example, see, I'm creating enum. So we have an enum and enum name. Enum name, I'm giving enum name as some status codes. Status codes is an enum. Now in this, it can have a key and value reference like. So the status code I defined as suppose okay and is equal to 200. So 200 is one value. Now what we define is suppose not found. Not found is 404. Like this we are configured. Suppose I am defining some point like disconnected, and I am not giving a value. Every constant must be initialized with a value. And if you are not defining a value, so by default, it will take a value based on the previous value. That means now disconnected value is 405. Automatically it implements. That means if you don't implement any constant, constants are automatically implemented based on the previous value. That is what possible with constant. Number constants have auto implementation for value. That means, so actually, so enum number constants. So increment, that means use plus operator. So for next value, that is that plus for next value. That means increment by 1. That means now what happens is you defined here syntactically. Suppose we are writing the enum like this. This is enum and the value of disconnected is 405. Now, for example, so you defined something above this as, suppose we defined as unauthorized. And what is the value of unauthorized? There is no previous value. If there is no previous value, then what will be initialized with it? So the value of unauthorized is 0. If there is no previous value, it will be starting with 0. If there is a previous value, it will be incremented with previous value. That means now you can see here, I am writing unauthorized. Unauthorized value is not defined. Now how to access? I will use console.log. I want to print the details. Suppose I want to print here. So unauthorized, here it is status codes dot unauthorized. I want to print that. In the next line, I want to print status codes. Enum values are accessed just like a object, key and value. And what is it? Disconnected. And you can see it is going to display that value. Now I run this here. I will open a command prompt and run this here. Yeah. So we are going to handle that. So here we need to use, yeah. So tsc index.ts and node index.js. And you can see it is going to display 0 and 405. Unauthorized value is 0 and this is 405. If you don't initialize any value, automatically the values are initialized for you. And this is simple basic point. So how these enums are used. And very important is here implementation is not supported for string type. Auto implementation is not supported for string type. It is only for numbers. For string type, it is not supported. And enum can have a combination of various types. It can have both number and string. Sometimes in some websites, they will give you a wrong definition like enum is a collection of related type of constants. It's not related type of constant. You can have different types of constants in an enum. It is not related type of constant. That means you can even have a string constant. For example, now unauthorized is having a string unauthorized, or say you are not authorized. You are not authorized. That is the name. Now, very important is you can have both string and number constants. And you can see now when I compile this, so it is going to work. That means unauthorized means it says you are not authorized. You can have string and number constant, but auto implementation will not work. For example, if not found is given as page not found, after that any value is empty, it is not implemented. It is not implemented because a string cannot implement the next value. Number can implement the next value, string cannot. Then you have to initialize a value or you have to put a string. It cannot implement. Auto implementation work only for numbers. Here you need to put some other value, then it will work. Right? If there is a string presiding with empty, then it will not work. If it is a number presiding with empty, it will work. It will automatically implement. So you can have a combination of string constants. You can have a combination of number constant, but string will not allow. That means this is the example. In this, actually, this is invalid. So this is invalid. You can't handle that. That is not possible. You cannot define this, right? Why? Because if it is a string constant, value must be implemented. Another point is you can have expression. Enum can have an expression. For example, you can see enum can have expression. So enum expressions are nothing but, suppose I am writing like this. Enum can have expression like, so A is 10. So, and B is 20. And C is equal to A plus B. That's okay. It works. It is a constant with expression. A function also can be a constant. That means now you are printing here. So addition is equal to the status codes dot C. It can print that. That means you can have an expression. So you can see enum can have an expression also. It will work. Enum can be a set of number constants or string constants or expressions. But remember, in some interviews, they ask, what are the operators not supported in enum? Currently, which operator we are using? Addition operator we are using. In some interviews, they ask what operators are not supported in enum. What is that question? What operators not supported means, is there any restriction for operators also? That means obviously already we know that. So what operators are not supported? Any operator that returns a Boolean is not supported. any operator that returns a boolean is not supported. That means an expression is having an operator greater than, it's not supported. So why it is not supported? Because it's a boolean, because it returns boolean, and enum cannot have boolean. Enum cannot have boolean type, boolean value, or any expression that returns boolean. So all the operators that are used for building boolean expressions, those are not supported. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal, not equal, double equal, all these are not supported. So that means if anyone asks what are the operators not supported, operators not supported, all conditional operators not supported. Why? Because they return a boolean, and booleans are not supported in an enum. Another important question asked in interviews is what is enum reverse mapping? One more point is that in interviews they ask a question, what is enum reverse mapping? Enum reverse mapping. In many interviews these days they ask this question regularly. Only when you mention TypeScript as your language for React. So in your resume, don't mention TypeScript as the primary language of React, right? You have to mention about React. And you should say that I have a knowledge of React with TypeScript also. Right? If you say TypeScript is my primary language, your interview becomes too complicated, because they will ask a lot of complex questions in TypeScript rather than asking in JavaScript. Right? So, and if you say I am my entire project is on JavaScript and I know TypeScript, then their concentration will be JavaScript. Almost 80-90% all JavaScript only, but 10% they may ask related to TypeScript, right? So what is reverse mapping? Reverse mapping is nothing but it is a technique. It is a technique used to access key with reference of value. Generally, we access value with reference of key. If you can access a key with reference of value, then it is called reverse mapping. That means with value reference, you can access its key. That is what actually enum reverse mapping. For example, here we are defining like, so not found. Not found is 404. Now what I am doing here, I am trying to access. I am defining here status code. What is the status code? Status code is status codes dot not found. That is status code. I want in the next line, I want status text. Status text is not number. Status text is not number. Status text is the key name. Key name is not found. Status text is not found. Code is 404. Now what you can do is status codes of 404. This is reverse mapping. That means with reference of value, you can access its key. That is called enum reverse mapping. So reverse mapping allows you to access with reference, right? That is actually, this is one thing. So technically this is one option. So this is run this and same, yeah. Index and index.js, it is same. Status code is 404, status text is not found. So reverse mapping is nothing but it allows you to access. It allows you to access. So this is what you can define. This is one example for that. These are all the concept of enums. So this is enough about TypeScript. So to deal with React, these are all points enough, because everything, whatever is there, you learned. You know all the concept about this. Only one another point, modules already you learned. Module systems already we discussed. In the JavaScript, I told you import, export, default modules. The same concept here also. That means TypeScript module system is similar. TypeScript modules, so same like JavaScript modules, JS modules. There is no difference here. So if you know modules of JavaScript, same here also. Let me give a fast example for that also. For example, we have to build one application. Module system is nothing but, you see now here, I am creating a separate folder. I am creating a separate folder called library. In this library, I will create a subfolder called contracts. Okay. And another library, a folder called templates. Okay. Another library folder called components. So we have contracts, templates, and components. Now we will build another folder outside by name app. Now, whatever library is there, I want to use in this app. And how the libraries are built, let's see now. So first we design contracts. Let's go to the contracts, add a new file. What is the name? Product contract dot what ts. And here we need to configure a contract. Contract is an interface. We need to define interface. What is that? Product contract. And what it should have? Name, string type. And price is number type. So number type. And we have quantity is also number type. And total is a function. What type? Number type. And print is a method of what type? Void type. Now this is a contract we are having. Okay, now let's create a template. Add a new template here. What is it? Product template. Template.ts. But remember, this contract is not accessible outside. Then you have to mark it as what? Export. Now we need to use that contract here. Import. Import what? Product contract from contracts. After that, now you are creating an abstract. Export abstract class. Class is what? Product template. This implements which one? Product contract. It implements product contract. According to that contract, we have to define the functionality. Now here I am defining public name. It is a string type and it is initially empty. So public, so price, it is a number type, it is 0. And public quantity, it is a number type and it is 0. And total, actually public, so abstract and the total is a number type and it is not having any functionality as of now. That functionality will be implemented later. I already told you abstraction in the last session. We have another one, abstract. What is it? Print method. It is void type. Now your contract and templates are ready. Now I want to use this template. I want to use this template in a component. Then what you have to do? Component. Add a new class. What is it? So we have component class, product component dot ts. This is product component. Here we need to import product template. We have to import product template from templates. Now here we need to create export class. What is it? Product component class. It extends which class? Product template class. Oh, it extends product template class. Now here we are defining name. So name is some name. We are defining some price. Price is some price. And we are defining some quantity. Quantity is some quantity. And we are defining total. Total is a function. This should return this dot quantity into this dot price. And we need Print is a void method. Remember, structure is not required to define because already structure is coming from this template. And this should present console.log. We will print details like name is equal to, so this dot name. Similarly, price is equal to this dot what price, and quantity is equal to this dot quantity, and the total is equal to this dot total. And that's how we are defining /n. Okay, this is print method. The component is also ready. This is the component, and the component is ready. We have the component ready. Now I want to use this in my project. If I have to use this in the project, then go to app and add a new file, index.ts. Here I want to use that component. Then what to do? Import which component to import? Product component from the library. And just we need to create a TV object. It is of what type? Product component, and we have to print the details. That's it. That means our application looks simple, but actually it have a lot of library in the background. Your app have a simple class being used, but this class is built with template. Template is built with contract. Earlier we done the same with all files in one place, all logic in one file. But in reality, it will be in this way. That means we create contracts, we create templates, we create components, we inject these components into our project. Now, when I run this, you observe carefully, you just run this index.ts, compile it. It will compile all dependencies. That means you see in the library, component is having a TS file, but it needs a JavaScript file. Contract is having a TS file. It needs a JavaScript file. Every file you don't need to compile. Just compile your app. Automatically it will compile all these. It will generate JavaScript files for them. That is what actually specialty of dependency injection. Every object-oriented programming uses dependency injection mechanism. In that, what happens is it identifies the dependencies and it will process those dependencies. So you don't need to compile everything. You just compile this file. Let's open this. I will open here in which location cd ... cd app. In app, now we will use tsc index.ts. Now automatically it is going to compile all the files. You see index.js is there, product component JS is there, contract JS is there, template JS is there. All files are generated here. You have to just compile your component, that is node, what is it, index.js. It will show the result. Or total function we are not calling as a function. So here total is written like a function. You have to call like a function. Then it will return the result. Okay. So compile it and run it. It is going to print the total. So this is the concept of modules. Already we know this. This is generally done in JavaScript also. So the same module system works in TypeScript because Angular, React, Vue, any technology using TypeScript, they must use the module systems. They have to use module systems. So this is the basic approach. Now let's see how all this concept works for our React. This example I will upload. I will upload a zip file for this. For all these files code, I will upload a zip file. You can go through them. Now, once you are good with this, now you have to build an application. That means now we will see how we can create an application. So what is the basic summary now? So for TypeScript, we have data types. Variables are same now. Variables are same. you have data types, you have operators, you have statements, you have functions. So you have class, you have access modifiers. So static and non-static members, non-static members. So we have abstract classes, and we have generics, you have enums. These are all some new things to remember here. And obviously modules are same concept. How do we deal with them? This is the basic point you need to understand in TypeScript. So now actually one more we forgot here, interfaces now. That is the major one, interfaces. We call them as what? Contracts. Classes are called as components, and abstract classes are called as templates. That's how we use them. Now, with this knowledge, actually, this knowledge is enough for even dealing with Angular. If you have to later work with Angular or view any technology, there this knowledge is enough about TypeScript. This is what we need for Angular or React. Now let's see today how we can build an application with TypeScript. So creating a new React application with TypeScript. Let's see how to do that. It's very simple. So what we have to do, we have to use any location on your PC, npx create React app. You have to use create React app and your app name and template. You have to use template as TypeScript. That is what you have to do. That means you have to create a new React application. So with the template as TypeScript, then it will add complete React app with TypeScript. Your React app will not change. It will be exactly how you saw in your TypeScript. Only some changes in extensions and some new files will be there. What are new files? Because you are using, I will show you them. Let's create a project now, right? Let's create an application and see. So in my computer, I will take a location where already that is not there. Huh? Okay, I will open this D drive location. In my computer, I will open D drive. In this, I will create npx create React app and app name as TypeScript React app. That is the name I'm giving, TypeScript React app. Okay, so here what we will do, we will put a template. Template is what? TypeScript. This is what you need to do. Otherwise, it will be JavaScript only. Right? So now when you add this, it is going to create a React application for you with TypeScript as primary language for it. Now, TypeScript uses TSX files. It uses TSX files. TypeScript, so JavaScript extension like JSX, it will use TSX. Remember, all libraries are same, no change. Axios or Formic or cookies or routing, anything is same. No change. Only the change is data type definitions. Only the point is data types. Now you can utilize your concept of contracts. Contracts means interfaces. When you are dealing with data, you can make them strictly typed, work with only for that particular type of data. So these all possible. There is no change in anything else here. All your validations are same, routing is same, your cookies libraries and Axios libraries and other libraries that you used, formic validations, yep, all are same. They are not different. That means it's not like TypeScript different library and here different library. Some third parties have different library. That means I told you Telerik, like people have different library. They give one library for JavaScript, they give another library for TypeScript. But majority of all your JavaScript libraries that you have used the same exactly, they work in TypeScript also, right? We will see what is the change in the project infrastructure, what changes will be there, what newly added. Okay, so project is created. Let's see the changes in this project now. So I will open this project. So let's open this project in our Visual Studio Code. And let's check the changes, what happened with the TypeScript. Open the folder. And this is in my D drive. It is TypeScript React application. Okay. Now, this is the project you will see here. What's new? What is new here? Only one file is new, which I showed you already. So what is one new file new here is tsconfig.json. Right? This is the file new here. So everything else is same. That means, so the file system, this is creating a new React application with TypeScript. And here actually the file system is same. So with a new configuration for tsconfig.json with a new configuration file tsconfig.json. What it contains? What it contains? I showed you this how to create manually. In our TypeScript project, we created this manually. What is its purpose? It sets rules for using TypeScript in a project. That means into which JavaScript version it should translate, which module system it should use, what extension of files it should handle, where to save the output files, all such rules. How to define variables, is data type definition is compulsory or not, how to write a string, single quote or double quote. All such rules are defined in tsconfig. Right, this file we created manually earlier. How to create this file manually? You remembered tsc init. We use tsc init. It generated this file. In every TypeScript based project, this file will be there, and you can see that is there. This contains all the rules for TypeScript. You can see it shows all the rules for TypeScript, and see the target ES5. That means JavaScript ES version 5. You can change it to any latest version if you are using any new features which are not there in ES5. And you can see it is having a lot of other rules. It is using a module system called ES Next, and it is using React JSX. And another point is it is including all the dynamic SRC, means modules are present in this SRC. This is general configuration. And you see public is same, no change. Public contains same files, no change. Index.html is same. There is no change in index.html. There is no change in index.html. It is same. And in SRC now you will see there will be no change in CSS files. Only instead of JS, you will have TSX. The components files will be what? TSX. And index.tsx. And in index.tsx, you observe in index.tsx, logic is same, no change. That means you have to create root, you have to add root, render root, everything same, no change. Then what is the change is when you are dealing with data, configuring the data, working with the data, then data types, configurations, contracts, everything will be mattered. Let's see how it works. For example, now we will start the project. So npm start, same, no change in that starting your project. That means all are similar. Only one point is tsconfig. And here what happens is, so in JavaScript and in TypeScript, only the point you will see here we have .js, or you can have JSX. You can have JSX also. JSX, JX, same are, both are similar. Now here you can have TSX only, not TS. It should be only TSX. TSX, this is used for components. For components, you use TSX. For contracts and all, you use TS. TS for module, TS for contracts, TS for templates. For all of them, you use this. But for components, it should be TSX. Here you have to follow two extensions actually. So in our JavaScript, component can be JSX or JS. But here component cannot be TS. It must be TSX. Then modules, contracts, and templates you can mention in TS. You can define in TS, right? So components compulsory TSX. You need to define TSX. Let's see. That is what actually the file system is. Now, once it is started, so it is compiled. Yeah, it is compiled. Let's see. It is starting. And we have a React application with TypeScript. You can see this is an React application with TypeScript. And you know, as per the logic, everything comes from which file? app.tsx. Now let's create a component and see what are the changes. Means how to design the components, work with them. Only one step. If I show everything, you have to implement in the same way. Just see here. Now let's go and create a new folder called components. Okay, same like what we have done. We will create another folder called contracts. I will keep all the contracts in this. Now what I want to do is, I want to create a component to interact with API, get the data from API, fetch the data from API and use it. Now see what I am doing here. Let's go to components, add a new file. This is a shopping component. This is shopping.component.tsx. I'm giving shopping.component.tsx. You can give any name, right? So, but extension is TSX. Okay. Now here, how to define? Same. Export default export function, and the function is shopping component. And what it should return? It should return a simple presentation. And here we will keep a heading like fake store API, like this, or say sub shopping online, like this I defined. Now I will keep this in the startup. You know what to do. Here we have to import. What is it? Shopping component we have to import. That's it. Now you can see your shopping online is working fine. There is no change. Everything same. Only the component file name is TSX. Now, how to work with the data? We will see that here now. That means now what we will do is, we are expecting data to come from API. Whatever data comes from the API, we have to fetch that and we need to display. Now see what we are doing now. If you are expecting data from products, and you see now products of what? Fake store products we need to fetch. Suppose I want to get categories, then see how to define. First I will put categories. What I will do is I will create a simple div. Here I will put a simple div, and here I will create a heading, or say simple label, say select category, and a drop down we will add a select. Here user can choose one category. User can select a category. CSS everything same. That means if you want, you can add CSS here. This class. So the class name is some container. Suppose you are adding styles. Okay. Container means we need a CSS file. Na? Adding CSS files, importing them, all are same. This is not having Bootstrap. So I have to install Bootstrap also. Instead of that, let me write a style. I will write style and style I will define as display flex, or I will just give margin. Margin, let keep 20 pixel all directions. It will be better. Okay, that is fine. Now what we will do here is we want to get the data from fake store and display here. We want to access the data from fake store and display here. Then what we need to do now? We need to configure state. All concepts are same, hooks, everything same, no change. So we create a constant. Constant is what? Categories. And what we have to do? Set categories. And now we need to define use state. This is different now. Configuring the state, because this data is coming from API. Initially, it is not sure about what type of data will come, but later it will be handling string type array. If it is handling string type array, actually use state is a generic type. You see here, it is a generic type now. It's a generic type. It is a generic type. It's not like previous. Now use state is a generic type. Then you have to configure generic type. What? It is a string type array expecting. That means we are expecting what type here? It is expecting a string type array. It is expecting an array, but that array is what type? String. Now categories is what type? Categories is a string type array. This is how we need to declare. This is the change in designing state. Earlier, we don't need to mention the type, but here we need to define the type. Now, important, suppose you are expecting products and set products, and you need to define use state. Now, what should be the type? I told you na array of objects. How to configure object type array. There are two techniques. You can directly configure here, or you can create a contract and import here. That means what is the type I am expecting? Fake store type. Fake store type is what? Actually, fake store type is an object. Am I right? It is an object. Is one object? So it is not one object. That actually it is expecting an array. Array of what type? It is an object type array. In that what array you need? ID, name, title, and everything you need to define. I told you creating such is a very complex one. And for that we discussed one concept. If there are so many attributes to define, already I showed you how to declare an object type. Object type means directly you can configure here. Object of array means you can configure like this. But what we want to do, instead of doing this, we will put a simple one. We will go here in the contracts. We will add a new contract, that is product contract dot ts. And we will define interface, export interface. What is it? Product contract. In product contract, it will have ID, which is number according to their data type. Right? It will have a title, which is string type. It will have an image, which is a string type. It will have description. Description is also string type. It will have another one, category. Category is also string type. It will have rating. Rating is an object type, which will have rate, which is a number. And it will have count, which is also a number. This is the data we are expecting. We need to create a contract for the data. Now this contract must be used by your state. That means what we have to do here, we have to import. What to import? product contract from contracts, and this use state must be what type? Product contract type array. That is how you need to configure your state values. This is the change. You cannot simply mention array. So it will immediately show an error. I can't identify title, name, and all. Now, what is advantage? Your products is very strongly typed. It exactly knows what type of data it is dealing. And product contract is dealing with the data types. What are those types? We will see that now here. Now, what should happen? This is the change you have to do in your state. If your state is expecting a product contract type object, that means only one product you are expecting. Then how? Constant product. What we have to do? Set product. Only one product you are expecting. Then use state. Use state, it is what type? Product contract type. And it is an object actually. And see, now object have those properties. Here we don't need to define, because that object, this itself is an object. That itself is an object. That means it contains the keys and values. You can go to the definition and see that contract is having all these things. It is having all these options to define. So you can define in this way. When you are dealing multiple, then put as an array. Only specific, then you can use in this way. Initially, let's put these two categories and products, and let's access now. I am using what? Use effect. Same everything. Use effect. What we have to do? So we need to fetch the data coming from API. I will just use a fetch. You can use all Axios and all. So fetch from where? So we have to fetch data from HTTP fake store api.com/what products/what categories and .then. So we have .then. And we are having a response. So response.json. Then we are collecting then, and we are using the data. This data need to be applied. This data need to be applied into the categories. That means set categories. You can see it is strongly typed now. Strongly typed means it is expecting only string type array. Anything else is coming. At compile time itself, it will show error. This is good. Actually, earlier, your problems are resolved at runtime, not at compile time. At runtime, it will not show any problem. It will say that at runtime, it will show an error saying that there is no property called title. It will say that it is not a string. We have to avoid that now, and that already avoids by using this technique. Now what you do, whatever data is there, you send into it. That is categories. Now what we need to print all these categories in a drop down. So here I am creating so dynamic, we are creating categories.map. You are reading every category, and every category is presented. Every category is presented as an option with the key. Everything same, no change. And here we need to define the category name. Now it is going to load all the categories and display here. So everything same in TypeScript and JavaScript. Only the concern is about data types. When you declare any memory, you have to configure its type. You need to define its type. For example, now I want to access the products data. Then what we will do, we will use another fetch. So, and this fetch is going to fetch HTTP fake store api.com/products and .then, and it is response.json. And it is using .then, and here it is using data this data need to be applied into set products, and set products is a product contract type, and here I am defining data, and observe carefully here. Now we are defining an unordered list. I will just keep an unordered list here, or ordered list item should repeat. Then we will use products dot map. We need to read every product, and for every product we need to present a list item. We will put a list item, and here I will put a key. Key is product. So, and I say product dot, you can see all the properties are available. All the properties are available. Now, if I define some name as a property, it shows error here itself. If you remember, this problem will generally come in runtime and show. It will not show in compile time in JavaScript. In JavaScript compile time, it will not know whether it is having a name or not. But now you are using your strongly typed nature of TypeScript and contracts. It exactly knows what to deal. It will immediately tell you whether it is having the name or not. This is earlier resolved at what time? At a runtime. But now it is resolved at compile time only. That means you have to put what? ID. And what should be displayed here? Product dot, we have title. That's how we need to configure. And it is going to display all the data and show. So rest of all features are same. Only the change you will find here is understanding the types. For dealing with every data type, if it is coming from APIs and all, you create a contract, you define the state of that particular type, and you need to handle. This is very important, especially when you are working with TypeScript. This is only the change. Right now, you can use your own custom hooks, because see, fetching data from API and returning this data, we need to do this work a lot of times. Then what you can do? You can create one API. You can create a hook. You can configure the hooks. You can access them and use them. Already we learned how to create custom hooks and all. Right. For example, if I have to create a custom hook, I need to design a custom hook and manage a custom hook. How do we do? Remember, don't get confused. When to use TS and when to use TSX. TSX for components and TS for library. Library means you are designing contracts, you are designing templates, you are designing anything else. Then use TS. And TSX is only for components. For example, see, I am creating here another folder called hooks. And in that hooks folder, I am adding as suppose fetch API. So yeah, use fetch API, use fetch. I will just give as use fetch dot TS. So it is a use fetch dot TS. You can see this is a hook. Now, how do we create a custom hook? I told you, if you remembered, how to configure the custom hook. That means we have to define export what? Function. And function use what? Use fetch. Use fetch is a hook. And what it should do? It should take an URL. And this URL, why it is showing error? Why it is showing error? Because it is TypeScript. Every parameter needs a data type. That means you need to configure the type as string. It's compulsory. Every function, every method, every class that you define, it should be configured with the types. You need to do that. Now here, what this have to do? This hook is going to use effect. I am using use effect from React. What use effect will do is, so it is going to fetch the data. It is going to fetch the data and display the data. That means it will use fetch. So what it will do, it is going to access the data here, fetch from which one? It will fetch from URL. After that, what it will do, then uses response implies response dot what? JSON. After that, what it will do, so it is not end. After that, it is going to get then the data, and this data we need to apply somewhere. Now here in this, what I am doing, I am configuring constant and I am defining some data, and data is of any type, and I kept here null type, and initially it is null type. You know this union types now? We learned about union types. Union types means before any data is passed, it is a null. After the data is passed, it will use any type of data. It will use any kind of data. That's how you configure. Now, what should happen? This data need to be applied into this. That means we have to apply data, right? So into which location this need to be applied? That means this is constant data. So you can configure anything. You can use LET, you can use state, you can declare, because constant cannot be assigned now. With values you cannot assign. If it is a state, you can initialize. That means, for example, this is defined as a state constant, and it is defined as some API data, and we have an set API data, and it is use state. I am using use state, and what is the type of use state here? Data type. What is the data type for use state here? Because we are creating a hook, we don't know what type of data will come. Then we have to make it as any. We have to make it as any type. That indicates it can be any kind of data. Now, this API data is API data. So that means we need to set API data. Set API data. And into that we need to pass the data. And very important, this function have to return that API data. It should return that API data. That means what this function is going to do, it is going to return the data that you are fetching from API. Here one more point is there. What is that? Every time when the URL changes, it should fetch the new data. That means what is the dependency? Dependency is what? URL. That means every time when URL changes, automatically it will load it. Otherwise, it will load only once. Every time it has to load and return the data. That is what the use fetch is doing. So use fetch is returning. It is taking string and it is returning what type of data? Any. Suppose you want to make it to return only fake store data. Then what you can do, you can create a contract now. You can create a contract here. That means what you can do, which type? Product contract type. That means now this will return only product contract type. It will return product contract type. That means it is a hook specially designed only for fetching fake store, not for NASA or other APIs that you are using. So because you configured a contract, it cannot return anything else other than that contract. I am just making it as any. Now, how to use this hook? Already you learned that. How to use this hook? That means now you need to import this hook here. So wherever you want to use this component, wherever you want to use, you have to import. So import. What to import? Use fetch. That is from your custom hooks. Now what this use fetch can do? Use fetch can get the data. So I don't need to write all this now. I don't need to define all this. Now what we have to do? So we need to create a constant which can get the data and display. So how you can create a constant now? Suppose I am defining a constant. This is what categories, cats. Suppose I defined like this. And what it will use fetch. Use fetch from which location it is fetching from http colon. What is that? Fake store api.com / what the categories. That is what it is doing. That means now you are configuring this. You are configuring this so that it can access only this. You can declare, you can configure that. So I am declaring here, and it is the hook we are using. The hook you are using. Now what cats contain? Cats contain information about all the categories. So that means now observe carefully. So here I am not using categories map. I am not using categories map. I am using here, what is it? Cats.map. Right now you can see it shows an error here. You can see what is the error. It is any type now. That means it says that the type of the data is what type of data is coming. Because you are using a hook to send the data, it is what type of data is coming. It is a string type. That means you need to configure as a type now. Actually, you need to define a type. This is required, especially when you are dealing with the data like this. This is type. Category type is string, and you can access that and you can display. This is one simple point. That means now you don't need to write all this. You don't need to write all this. Directly this hook is going to handle that. Directly the hook is going to fetch the data and it is going to display the data. Usually whatever data comes here, so it will use that. Here some error because we haven't created all this in a structured way. It is not using map because it is not a collection, because it is expecting cats. What type? Array type. That means we need to configure the data type as what? Array. So we need to define array type. Actually, what this const means, it's not a general data type. What is the type? It is any type array. Data type is compulsory. So why map is not working on that? So map have to work on that only when data is coming. Where is another one? Somewhere problem here is in the map is not reading. Let's change this. What is the fetch here? Data type is any type array. Some problem in the type. Let's check. It is okay now, right? Some problem in the JSON. Okay, where is the problem in JSON? Not a valid JSON data. No? It is actually not categories. It is what? Products / what? Categories. That is the data. That is working fine now. Okay. Yeah. So we created a hook and we are using the hook for fetching the data. This time, what happened here? We created our own hook called use fetch. Now, what it is returning? It is returning the data coming from the API. Any URL you pass, it will collect the data and it will return that data. It is going to return the data. And how you are using it in your, you created a constant. It is what type? Any type array. If you know what type is coming, you can make it string type array because you know that categories are what type? String. And you can access and you can display them. If it is products, then how you will do? So you can create another one. What is it? You can say const. What is it? Prods. It is what type? It is a product contract type. It is a product contract type array. If it is a product contract type array, that means you have to use fetch. Use fetch. We have to send that type of data coming. HTTP what? Fake store API.com, API.com / what? Products. This is a product contract type. Now, what we need to do is we need to use here. So instead of using products, we are using what? Prods. We are fetching the data and we are displaying. This is working same. It is also using the same approach and displaying. It is displaying in the same way. Now you don't need to use any fetch operation using use effect here. You don't need to do anything like this here because you are using a hook for that. You are configuring a hook and you are handling a hook, and that hook is managing your data. So you can create your custom hooks. Here you have seen both how to create a custom hook, how to use that hook, get the data and implement. Now, wherever I want to fetch data from API, I just need to use the fetch. That is the custom hook we created, right? This is, I will just put this as a comment. I'll just put this as a comment because just to understand that if you want to individually declare, then you can write like this. In that case, what we will do? Use effect. I will put a basic commented syntax so that you can understand. So here what we need to do, just same technique we need to follow. Here you have to use your fetch logic. So fetch some HTTP fake store API.com /products /categories .then response and response.json and .then, and we have data, and the data comes and display here. Set categories is whatever data. Just for your understanding sake, I given both syntaxes. One is you create your own hook and you manage. Another one, you can directly fetch and use it. Right here, you have to create a contract. You have to import that contract and use that in your data. Right? You can directly configure or you can use this technique. Right? So try this. Now, by using this, we will see other part of concepts now. You try this, how to create a project with React and TypeScript. This example I will upload and you try this. Now in the next session, we will see the other concepts. Now TypeScript with Redux, TypeScript with React Native. React Native means developing application for mobile, how to handle them, and Redux, how it works with TypeScript. One example I will show you. So now we are going to see the concept of Redux and we are going to see React Native. React Native is for developing mobile apps. For this, actually, you need Android, iOS knowledge. I will just give you an introduction how React is used by the people who know Android and iOS. If you have knowledge of Android, iOS, how to use React Native framework for building mobile apps. These two we will see how to handle. That we will see in tomorrow's session, right? Tomorrow we will discuss about that. Okay, right. They haven't informed me about the question. 11 a.m.